were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Truthfully, no. But after, I went to college and got drafted by the Saints and was with them for a while, and really kind of lost my heart for football. I played it all my life, and when I had an opportunity of making some money, I really wasn't with it. I just didn't care for it anymore. And I happened to be watching. I'm from Tampa,
right.
And I was watching TV, and I kept watching. I'd be flipping the channels, and I'd catch his wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling. Eddie Graham, Mike Graham's dad,
right?
And my father-in-law knew Eddie Graham, and anyway, one thing led to another, and I was a pretty big name in Florida. I was I was an All-American in high school, blue chipper, voted the outstanding athlete in the state of Florida. And he gave me a tryout. And from then on, 25 years, and the rest is history.
Now, you played ball with Brian Blair, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, Brian went to Louisville.
Right.
And I never really played with Brian. But we did start together.
Now, you were involved with bodybuilding, I believe, before wrestling a little bit, right?
Well, I wouldn't say bodybuilding. To say I was going to be a bodybuilder, no. I just did it for my football, to keep myself strong. And I did a lot of powerlifting moves and everything. But then it got to be I got to be obsessed with it, And
right.
Before I knew it, boom, bam, bam, I ended up looking the way I looked, and which is by far the best body in this business, naturally. And that was an athlete. So I kind of was, what would you say? I was the flagship, I think, is to having somebody that had a heck of a body that knew how to wrestle. And I've been told that before, so I'm going to say it again. I guess I started it, especially up there with Vince.
Right.
And the aggressiveness and the anger. And a lot of people say, well, how did you do? Well, that was me. It wasn't fake. That was me. That's the way I was. I was a real jerk. And I look back on that now, and you ask my wife, she'll tell you.
Right.
I was a jerk. And that was just, I don't know why, but that was me. And I fit it. It suited me, and it worked. And when I first went in, to WWF, Vince, they took, I had a good position, but they didn't expect for it to do what it did. And because I'm believable. And when I did something, about 80% did it. A lot of guys didn't like to wrestle with me because,
right.
But that's the way it is. That was me.
Now, when you first broke in Florida, who was your mentor? Who was it? Hiro Matsuda?
Hiro Matsuda.
Okay.
He is the one who taught me everything. Every day I was with him 5-6 days a week for about 9 months. And when you started in Florida, it was the, like they used to say at the power plant, it was the Harvard of professional wrestling. And that's the way it was down there with Hiro. Because out of about 8 or 10 people, they ended up just, they didn't last long because you had to prove yourself. You just didn't walk off the street and say, I want to be a wrestler. No, it didn't work that way. And you had to prove yourself, that you were worthy of it.
What was the training? What was that like?
Oh, it's brutal. I've had 3-4 days when I was with the Saints. We had 4 days in the summertime. And Hattiesburg, Mississippi is where our training camp used to be. It was 102, 103 degrees, and we'd have 4 practices a day. This wrestling, they had me in the Sportatorium. There's a little building
right.
where they used to do TV.
Right.
Probably couldn't seat, 50, 75 people, and no windows or nothing. And it would get so hot in there, and Hiro would just put me through it. But I had that drive. I had the heart for it. And it sounds like I'm bragging. I guess I am. But it's the truth. I had to drive for this. I had that killer instinct. Same way I did in football. I'd run through walls.
Was it tougher than you expected, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I knew that it was pretty tough from what I've heard, but I didn't realize it would be that tough. But it was the toughest thing that I've ever done. No, hands down. And that's why I believe that I respect it so much, because I love this business. You know, I'm passionate about it, you know, to this day. And that's what's gone. That's what's gone. You get these guys in there that started a year or 2 years and they're making $1 million a year. That's a joke. And I think the people, they're to the point now where they don't even want to care about it no more, because nobody out there really knows how to do it.
They didn't pay the dues.
They're done. And the ratings are proving it.
Now, before you went to work for Bill Watts, you still, you worked in Florida. What was the territory like, and who did you work with down there?
For Bill?
For Eddie Graham.
I only really worked a day a week, maybe every now and then 2. And the whole idea was that you had to go. I had to go learn. You know, I mean, the first place I went to was Memphis, Tennessee. I stayed there for 9 months, and I'll never forget that Eddie. What's his name? Eddie
Marlin.
Eddie Marlin. I was there for about a week, and Eddie Marlin took me aside and he said, "Paul," he said, "you know, you got to do better than this." He said, "Otherwise we're going to have to let you go." And boy, and it's not that I wasn't trying, but I just didn't, I was just scared not scared,
right.
but be intimidated. I was intimidated by the crowd, this and that. And I was a country boy. You know, I mean, I grew up in the country, and I wasn't a very outgoing guy. You know, I didn't talk to a lot of people. I kept my mouth shut. And I was drawn back, laid back, I guess you could say. And it's like the next night I was doing stuff I never knew I knew how to do. I stayed there 9 months. Then I left, you know. But I did well there. And that talk that Eddie Marlin gave me, I'll never forget that, because it did. He was a good guy, and he knew how to handle me.
How was the locker room? Who were some of the guys that you worked with at that time?
Oh, well, Junkyard Dog. Junkyard was there with me, and let's see, who else?
Lawler was probably there.
Lawler was there, and the other guy, Dennis McCord.
Rip McCord?
No, Dennis, he was there. They had Fullers were there,
right?
People like that. Oh, there was a heck of a crew. I mean, they had some good people.
How did you wind up going to work for Bill Watts in Mid-South?
Well, Bill, because of Eddie Graham and them, and Bill liked athletes, and you know, I was an athlete. I guess he saw me and everything, and I ended up working for him off and on for 5 years, and that was an experience.
Huh.
I mean, it really was. You know, to drive 400 miles one way every Monday night, do 3,000 miles a week. I mean, that was a rude awakening right there, but I loved it. You know, I was gone all the time and I was on the road, but I was working every night, busting my, fanny, and, and as long as you do it, that you start seeing that, well, I'm worth more than he's paying me. So, I don't know. We went round and round at different times and everything. And finally I left there and went to Charlotte because I was working for somebody, and I was in St. Louis, and Joyce Scott saw me and asked me if I wanted to come to Charlotte and team me up with Jimmy Snuka.
Right.
And I said, absolutely. So anyway, I went there and stayed there for about a year and a half. And then I went to Pensacola after that.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.